Hi there, this is Jay Rodarmal with LifePlan Lawyer. I'm a wills, trust, and probate attorney here in California. Common question I get from clients is, who do I pick to be the trustee of my trust? So first of all, you will act as the trustee of your own trust typically. So if you and your spouse are active and healthy, you will be your own trustees as long as you're able to do that. So the role we're really thinking about is what's called successor trustees. So these are the people that would serve after you if you're single, or after you and your spouse if you're married. And most common selection for that role is going to be adult children if you have them, and if they're responsible. So there's no obligation that you choose the kids, even if you have some age restrictions and you say, well, they're not allowed to get the money till they're 25 or 30. They legally can serve as early as 18. So you may not want an 18-year-old there, but it's something you could do. So adult children first. Without kids, oftentimes people will think of siblings as the person to act, or if their kids are minors, you might think about your siblings. The person who's sometimes forgotten is the parent. Sometimes you think, well, my dad's 65, he's, starting to get older. I don't know if I want him there because by the time I die, he'll be so much older. I wouldn't think that way. I would think more about who is the right person right now. And if you think that your dad or your mom would make a great choice right now, I would go ahead and list them and then just be sure that we're going to pick a backup person to them. So those are the logical choices that a lot of people think about, is their children, their parents, their siblings. Beyond that, sometimes you get into nieces or nephews. So that's another possibility. Oftentimes I have clients where none of those choices work, or where the parent or the sibling is living in another country. And this can cause a big problem with a trust, because if you have a trustee who takes over and they're not living in the U.S., or someone outside the country, that can cause your trust to become a foreign trust with all sorts of negative tax consequences. So for clients in that situation where I don't have anyone here in the U.S., I just don't have anyone that I trust who's a family member to do this, then we get into looking at maybe a professional to do the job. So first of all, friends are fine. If you have friends, or you have, neighbors who you would trust, that's certainly acceptable. It doesn't have to be a family member. But if not, there are institutions who are willing to step in and do this. So banks are the logical, banks will have these trust departments, kind of like in the movies. You see the guys, usually guys who are, reading the will and doling out the money. That does exist. There are professional bankers, trustees to do that. Typically they have a minimum of how many assets they want. That number right now generally is around $2 to $3 million. And they don't want things like real estate. So the first thing they would want to do is liquidate any business you may have or real estate you may have and turn things into cash type assets. So keep that in mind if that's important to you, to hold on to rental properties or things. But institutions can be a fine choice. They obviously will be around a long time, and so they'll be there. The pricing on institutions can be a little bit higher than an alternative, and an alternative would be to use what's called a private professional fiduciary. In California, there's an organization called PFAC, Professional Fiduciary Association of California, and so that's a group of these folks. Those can be a good choice, especially for an older person, because you can select someone you trust and actually get to know who that person is that will be helping you. When you're younger, it becomes a little tricky because you can only pick an individual. There's no institutional person who is a private professional fiduciary. They're all individually licensed. And so you got to pick someone, and then, you know, the concern is when they retire, you're back to trying to pick another person to do that job. So that doesn't always work. Sometimes I will set things up where a family says, look, we know we want someone professional to do it. We don't want to burden our family with it. But we don't know who that person's going to be because it could be a long time from now. And so there is a way to basically pick someone that you trust to make the decision. So maybe that's a sibling or a nephew or a niece or something, and then give them the authority to select a private professional fiduciary when the time comes, either as an option to do it, so if your nephew or niece wants to do the job, they can, or as a requirement that you're requiring them to go pick someone else to do that job. So all of these are strategies that we can look at in terms of picking a fiduciary. And obviously anything beats just leaving it to chance. If you don't pick anyone, then it will be typically the most bossy or the greediest person who is going to try and step forward and take control of your estate. So much better for you to pick someone you think would be a good choice while you have that chance. Thank you.